In response to the COVID-19 pandemic and its crippling impact on the hospitality and tourism industry, Fáilte Ireland has developed a suite of tools to help businesses across the country chart a route to sustainable trading in the post-COVID-19 environment. This video shows you how to use the Capacity Commercial Impact Calculator developed for hotels and guest houses. Its purpose is to help you assess the effects of social distancing requirements on your business and the opportunities that may exist through offering new services or adopting different ways of working to maximize revenues and improve efficiency during what is expected to be a challenging period for the industry. Ideally, you will use the calculator in advance of reopening to test expected performance and whether you can generate a surplus, but it is also a useful tool to assess ongoing performance after trading recommences, as the marketplace is likely to be in a state of flux for some time. The general format follows the layout of the uniform system of accounts for the lodging industry, so it considers the profitability of each revenue-generating department in your hotel or guest house on a day-to-day and a week-by-week basis for up to 4 weeks in any month, although you do not necessarily have to enter information for the full 4-week period. The calculator, in fact, does not start on the first day of the month. Rather, it looks at blocks of weeks commencing on a Monday. The calculator is comprised of a number of separate Excel sheets or tabs, each covering a different area of operations in the hotel or guest house environment. You need only complete those sheets that are relevant to your own business, so you don't need to enter data into every sheet that's available. In each tab, you will come across cells with a red triangle in the top right-hand corner. These contain helpful text and information. You can access those cells by simply rolling your mouse pointer over them and the text will appear. I will now start by looking at the Rooms Division tab within the calculator. The information you will enter will mostly be key performance data that you will already be familiar with. The cells highlighted in light orange in all of the tabs, in fact, are those that require you to enter data where it's appropriate. So in this particular case, to start, we need to enter the month that you want to produce trading projections for. You can select that month from the drop-down menu, which runs from July 2020 to March 2022. Now you need to enter the number of bedrooms in your hotel or guest house. If all rooms are not available to let each day, then enter the number of bedrooms available here. Now, enter your expected room bookings for each day in this row, with the average number of sleepers here. The sheet assumes that all overnight guests will take breakfast the following morning. If that's not the case, enter the number of breakfast covers here on the day in which those guests actually overnighted in your hotel. The model will automatically transfer those number of breakfast guests to the following day. To round out the data entry related to trading income, record the expected average room rate before any allocation for breakfast in this area, and then note below that the breakfast allocation per occupied room. Now we need to enter the payroll cost estimates. Scroll down the page to the staff section. Cluster post by hourly rates of pay for reception, front desk, concierge, housekeeping, and so on. You can place a description if you wish in this column. You do not need to list all posts. For each rate of pay, enter the total expected hours to be worked during the week in this column, with the hourly rate of pay here. Then enter the appropriate PRSI rate, which is currently either 11.05% or 8.8% in the adjacent column. You do not necessarily need to enter the number of staff working during the week, because if you don't, it doesn't actually change the calculations. The hourly rates of pay, PRSI rates, and any descriptions that you have entered in this section of the sheet will automatically be carried forward into subsequent weeks, so you don't need to re-enter them. Recognizing that the cleaning regime in bedrooms is likely to be more rigorous and time-consuming than in the past, enter the expected average number of minutes to service a bedroom here, with the number of hours in a full working day for housekeeping staff in this cell. The calculator will work out the number of staff hours required for that week. Now scroll down to this section. You need to enter variable costs as a percentage of turnover, or you can enter them as an amount per occupied room. It's purely your choice. Fixed costs should be entered as a weekly value in this section of the sheet. Again, you can name each of those expenses, and the inputs will be carried forward to subsequent weeks, so you don't need to repeat the exercise in weeks 2, 3, and 4. You can override them if necessary, but chances are you won't need to. This slide also shows the pop-up commentary that is available in all cells with a red triangle in the top right-hand corner, and which I referred to earlier. A point worth noting is that if you inadvertently enter costs as both a percentage and a cost value per room, the percentage entry will take priority in the calculations. In this example, we have looked at week 1 in the month July 2020. The inputs are converted into a departmental profit statement with supporting KPIs as follows. This highlighted section of the sheet shows the expected performance on a daily basis and for the total number of days that you have entered data. Apart from the routine KPIs that you will review each day, I suggest that you pay particular attention to the payroll cost and the total cost per occupied room, as these are likely to increase with the additional cleaning requirements required as a consequence of COVID-19. Inevitably, that's going to push up the cost of business, and that's one very sound reason for actually using this model in terms of trying to establish whether or not you still have a viable business going forward. If you find that you are projecting a loss for the week, the sheet uses the information that you have input to provide an estimate of the additional number of room sales required to at least break even. That result can be found here. Other measures you can take include the review of all departmental costs, including staffing requirements, channeling a higher proportion of room bookings through your own website rather than through third-party intermediaries where you'll pay a commission, increasing prices, and considering measures to reduce the time taken on cleaning activities. To round out this section of the video, I noted earlier that you can enter projections for up to 4 weeks in any given month. If you choose to enter, say, 2 weeks information, the calculator will automatically prorate your entries to give an overall total for the full month. The results are shown here. For the corresponding month in the previous year, you can enter the rooms division revenue, payroll costs, and departmental profit in the highlighted cells. And the sheet will calculate the expected year-on-year change in these metrics in absolute and in percentage terms. A similar 4-week summary with prorated estimates for the full month and the option to compare performance from the corresponding month in the previous year is available under all the departmental tabs in this calculator. Turning now to the breakfast tab, which will apply to all of you. Some of the information needed to populate this sheet is automatically transferred from your room division entries. So things like breakfast allocation, number of breakfast guests, and so on. In terms of additional information requirements, start by entering your pre-COVID-19 breakfast room capacity and your current capacity under personal distancing requirements. In the case of week 1, for Monday only, you need to enter the number of breakfast covers from the previous night's occupied rooms. Subsequent days will automatically be updated. If you offer a la carte breakfasts, enter the number of covers here. Now, enter the number of breakfast covers you will service in your main breakfast room. The calculator will highlight here if you have insufficient capacity to meet that demand, and will ask you to nominate other options to satisfy that demand. You also need to enter any surcharges for room service, delivery, and a la carte breakfasts in this section. Now scroll down to this area of the breakfast tab. In this section, you need to enter the number of employee hours per day by staff category hourly rates of pay. Remember to match the hourly rates of pay with the appropriate PRSI rates. There is no need to enter every staff grade. Now scroll down to this section. Here you need to enter food and beverage cost of sales ratios and any other variable cost by percentage or by cost per cover. Finally, enter other expected departmental costs for the week here. The outputs for this tab are summarized in this highlighted section of the sheet. Detailed analysis by service type is shown underneath, allowing you to determine whether or not certain types of breakfast service, whether it be room service or grab and go options, for example, actually generate a surplus for you, or if they generate a loss, that is bearable by the business overall. And that completes the breakfast section. Now we will turn our attention to the restaurant tab, and we do that by clicking on the tab at the bottom of the page marked Restaurant 1. Recognizing that many hotels have multiple food offerings, the Restaurant 1 tab is one of a number of tabs that can be used for projecting the performance of multiple food and beverage outlets. They all work in a similar fashion. Therefore, once I talk you through the process of populating Restaurant 1 tab, you will know how to work the other tabs. In this case, the sheet considers lunchtime and dinner / evening service. Again, start by entering the capacity of your restaurant pre and post-COVID in these cells. Now enter the expected number of covers for lunchtime and dinner time, with a distinction being made between sit-in and take-away food if you offer it. In this area, the sheet will highlight if the number of sit-in customers is expected to exceed your capacity. You can then nominate how you will meet that demand if you have the opportunity to do so by inserting a number of covers in this section of the sheet. Your pricing for sit-in and takeaway lunch and dinner services needs to be entered here. Now scroll down to this area of the sheet where you need to enter the number of employee hours per day by staff category and hourly rates of pay. In the case of service staff, you should enter the number of hours by service location. That is, whether it was in your primary restaurant, on the terrace, for example, if you're using that as an overspill area, via room service, or where the service may be delivered somewhere else, an indoor space within the hotel. The reason for that, quite simply, is that the cost of service is likely to be higher outside of your main restaurant. And again, we want to test whether or not actually providing service in those areas makes commercial sense. This information should be entered separately for lunch and for dinner service in the relevant cells. Remember again to match hourly rates of pay with the appropriate PRSI rates. There is no need to enter every grade of staff. In this area of the sheet, we now need to enter cost of sales and other operating cost information, some of which can be entered as a percentage of revenue or as a cost per cover. Again, you can choose which you prefer. In these cells, enter any round sum weekly expenses for the restaurant which has not been included above. That completes the process of entering data into this tab. The outputs from your data entry are summarized in this section of the sheet. Detailed analysis of income and cost by service type for lunch and for dinner is shown below this summary, and will allow you to identify whether or not certain types of service are commercially appropriate to follow, or whether there are measures you can take indeed to improve the efficiency so that maybe a small loss can be turned into a profit. If you find that you're projecting a loss for the week, you should consider abandoning those service types that do not make money, or concentrate on those with the highest level of profit if you have the overall capacity to do so. Other measures you can take include the review of all departmental costs, including staffing requirements, the revamping of menus to concentrate on higher margin dishes, the possibility of increasing prices, and considering other measures that you can take to reduce the time taken in serving customers. If you choose to say enter only 1 week's information in this tab, the calculator will automatically prorate your entries to give an overall total for the full month. For the corresponding month in the previous year, you can enter the restaurant actual revenue, actual payroll costs, and the departmental profit here. And the sheet will calculate the expected year-on-year change in these metrics in both absolute and in percentage terms. As I noted earlier, 3 additional tabs are available in the calculator for the assessment of other food and beverage outlets, such as a cafe or brasserie, a bar or a bar with food, and so on. Those tabs are named Food Outlet 2, Outlet 3, and Outlet 4. The data entry requirements are similar to those that we've just looked at for the restaurant. Moving on to the Function Rooms tab, this sheet focuses on meetings and special events that you may host in the coming months, and which will also be subject to social distancing requirements. Consequently, the size of such events will decline materially, and it is important that you can be sure that the hosting of such events makes commercial sense. In this case, the tab makes provision for 4 separate meeting or conference rooms. You firstly need to enter the pre-COVID-19 capacity for each room under a number of different room layouts, and then you need to enter your expected post-COVID-19 capacities. Now enter the expected bookings for each day for each room and the average spend for food and beverage by event type. For each room, the spreadsheet compares your expected number of guests with your stated capacity and highlights where that capacity may be exceeded. You need to make appropriate arrangements to either accommodate those guests elsewhere or reduce the numbers attending. Now scroll to this section of the tab and enter the payroll costs. Enter the number of employee hours per day by staff category or hourly rates of pay. In the case of service staff, you should enter the number of hours by room in use each day. Remember, please, to match hourly rates of pay with the appropriate PRSI rates. There is no need to enter every staff grade. Enter food and beverage cost of sales ratios here, plus other variable costs for this department, either as a percentage of revenues or as a cost per cover. In this area of the sheet, enter any round sum weekly expenses for the functions and events department that have not been included elsewhere. That completes the data entry, and so this section of the sheet shows the outputs, which are summarized in the highlighted cells. A detailed analysis of income and cost by event room are shown below that summary. The benefit of entering the number of covers and payroll cost information for each function room is that the sheet will help you decide whether or not using some or all of those rooms to meet demand makes commercial sense when complying with social distancing requirements. If you find that you're projecting a loss for the week or for specific rooms, you should consider abandoning their use or review all departmental costs, including staffing requirements. You could also consider revamping your menus to concentrate on higher margin dishes and increase possible if that's appropriate and in fact feasible to do so. As mentioned, the remaining tabs within the calculator have been developed under the same principles and require similar data to be entered. Most of you will not need to use all of the tabs available, as you may not have the number of trading outlets which the calculator has provided for. For those tabs that you do use, the results of your data entry feed into an overall summary, which draws together all of the results for each revenue generating activity and shows the level of departmental profit or loss by week. You will find this by clicking on the Overall Sum tab. It also provides an estimate of income and profit for the full month here. If you enter the corresponding results for the same month in 2019 in the highlighted section, the sheet will calculate the year-on-year change by revenue type in absolute and in percentage terms. You can use these results when populating the Hotels P&L Excel template, which can be downloaded from the Fáilte Ireland website with an accompanying video. This concludes my introduction to the Capacity Commercial Impact Calculator for hotels and guest houses. The calculator template, notes on how to use it, and ideas to optimize your operation can all be found on the Fáilte Ireland website. Once you have used the calculator a couple of times, data entry should become second nature. Remember, it is simply a tool to help you make informed decisions about your business in advance of reopening and as you start finding your feet in these extremely difficult times. The calculator is there to help you improve the viability and sustainability of your business. I wish you every success.